My name's Joanne Caffrey and this is Police Custody Basics. Now, over the last 6 months or so, I've been engaged for at least 6 deaths in police custody cases, and common themes have emerged from those 6, but also in relation to other involvements that I've had. Now, if I just look at these 6 cases, I've been engaged by both the prosecution authority and the defence as well. And what I want to emphasise to people who work in custody, so whether you're the custody sergeant, the detention officers or the HCPs, the offences of gross negligence, manslaughter and or misconduct in public office, because those offences have been considered in the last 6 cases of deaths in custody that I've been involved with. Now, one of the main things that stood out to me was the custody staff, so the sergeants and detention officers, all saying that they either have no knowledge at all of the likes of the authorised professional practice, or they've heard of it but they haven't read it, or they've read it once. Now, the likes of the authorised professional practice and standard operating practices, they are the core documents for custody officers and custody staff to be aware of, because everything needs to comply. Now, ultimately, it's the custody sergeant who is responsible for everything in that custody office. That's the starting principle. The detention officers and the HCPs, they act on behalf of the custody sergeant. They advise the custody sergeant. It's up to the custody sergeant to take their advice and then use that with the national decision making model as information, and consider threats and risk, and then consider the powers and policies and the tactical options to make the decision. So they can use the HCP and the detention officers to conduct inquiries for them and to bring them information and suggestions. But ultimately, for those of you listening to this who is a custody sergeant, you cannot protect yourself by saying, well, I've passed it over to the HCP, for example. They are acting on your behalf. You as the custody sergeant are ultimately responsible. So, top tip there, if you are not fully familiar with the authorised professional practice, then you need to get familiar with it, particularly levels of observations and what they mean and what scenarios fit. Because I'm hearing from sergeants that they're aware there's 4 levels of observation, but they're not quite sure what they are and which detainee goes into which category, and therefore are pretty much opting for either level 1 for the vast majority of detainees, or the odd level 2. Now again, that links in issues around training and the quality of training and refresher training, but also the quality of management, so the inspectors and the senior officers for custody. But again, it comes back to the custody sergeant. The custody sergeant is the 24/7 manager in that unit. You, if you're the sergeant, you are the one who is setting the standards. It's your responsibility to manage the staff and to engage the staff to give you the information that you need. And if you're having staff conduct visits, then it's your responsibility to ensure that the staff are conducting the visits appropriately as how you want them. And if you want the HCP to go on visits with the detention officers, then put that request in. The HCP service is a request service. You need to make those requests, because ultimately you as the sergeant, it is you who is responsible for the safety and the compliance for the detainee with the likes of the law and Police and Criminal Evidence Act, the authorised professional practice and the custody expectations. If you have specific questions, send them to me. Otherwise, subscribe to this channel, because there's plenty more topics that I'm going to be releasing in relation to what custody staff need to be aware of and consolidation of some of this. Thank you. Joanne Caffrey, Police Custody Basics.